All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And that was a cornet film, which involves taking notes. Cornet loves taking notes, and that one was from 1981. And when we've been scanning these cornet films for the company that owns Cornet, we run across some that don't have soundtracks, and so that's one we're going to try to hunt down, and maybe we will show it again at some point, because we love it. Let's see. What do I got to show you? Let's learn about diffusion and osmosis. Enjoy.
The movement of materials in and out of a living cell involves many processes. Of these, perhaps the most basic and best understood is the physical process of diffusion. Diffusion depends on the motion of molecules. We can get evidence of molecular motion by observing a drop of milk under the microscope. Fat globules in the milk move back and forth at random. They're being bombarded by molecules, which themselves move about in a random fashion. To show the effect of the random movement of molecules, we let some colored gas into a closed container. There is a movement of molecules from an area of greater concentration to an area of lesser concentration. This is the process of diffusion. After a period of time, the gas is diffused evenly throughout the container. To show how diffusion is involved in the movement of materials in and out of a living cell, we'll represent a cell using this smaller plastic cube. The sides are of an extremely thin plastic, which functions as a membrane. This membrane has physical properties similar to the membranes that enclose living cells. Materials which enter or leave a living cell pass through a membrane which surrounds the cell. Let's see the effect of the membrane on the diffusion of a gas. With the cell inside the larger container, gas is admitted into the cell. At first, the gas seems confined within the membrane. As time goes on, the gas diffuses through the membrane. Diffusion continues until the concentrations of gas within and without the cell are equal. This helps us understand how gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuse in and out of living cells. All gaseous exchange in plants depends on the process of diffusion. Diffusion also accounts for the exchange of gases in animals. Oxygen and other gases in the air enter through the rabbit's nose and move into its lungs as the animal breathes. Inside the lungs, the gases move into clusters of air sacs called alveoli. In each alveolus, oxygen gas is more concentrated than in the surrounding capillary where the blood cells are. So oxygen diffuses into the blood. In the blood cells, carbon dioxide is more concentrated than in the alveolus. So carbon dioxide diffuses out of the blood cells. In much the same manner, gas diffuses in and out of other living cells. Living cells are composed primarily of water and generally exist in water solutions. Immersing the cell model in a container of water helps us simulate the physical conditions encountered by a living cell. In the water outside the cell membrane, we'll pour some molasses. Molasses contains glucose, one of the simple sugars used by living cells. We'll see if molasses will diffuse through the membrane. We'll time the diffusion process. At the start, the inside of the cell is clear. About 6 hours later, some of the molasses has penetrated the cell membrane. After 12 hours, the molasses concentrations outside and inside the cell are nearly equal. This membrane is permeable to molasses. Starch is another material used by living cells. We'll pour the starch into the water outside the cell as we did with the molasses. We'll see if the membrane is permeable to starch. 6 hours later, the starch has diffused throughout the surrounding water, but has not permeated the membrane. At the end of 12 hours, the starch still has not penetrated the membrane, so this membrane is impermeable to starch. A membrane that is permeable to some substances and impermeable to others is called a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membranes surround living cells. Such a membrane is generally permeable to such things as gases, water, sugars, and salts. It is generally impermeable to substances like starches, fats, and proteins. This semi-permeable quality of a living cell membrane helps explain why, in blood cells, gases readily diffuse in and out, while large protein molecules stay within the cells. In the small intestine, large fat molecules must be broken down into smaller glycerin and fatty acid molecules to permeate the membranes of the intestinal wall. In plant protoplasm, starch must be broken down to sugars to diffuse through the membranes surrounding the cells of the plant. All of this movement in and out of cells takes place in water. With this plastic sac, we'll investigate the diffusion of water through a membrane. The egg will provide protein material as found in a cell. Now the membrane is placed in water. See if you can predict what will happen. The sac swells. Inside the sac are water molecules and molecules of protein. Outside the sac are only molecules of water. Water, then, is more concentrated outside than inside, so water diffuses into the sac. The diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane is called osmosis. We can illustrate osmosis in a living cell with the aid of some red blood cells viewed under a microscope. The concentration of materials in the water outside the cells is almost the same as inside. There is osmotic balance. We can upset this balance by adding a drop of distilled water. Watch what happens to the blood cells now. They expand and burst. Water, moving into the cells by osmosis, creates osmotic pressure, enough to destroy the delicate membranes. Another example of osmosis can be shown using plant cells. We'll add a salt solution to some algae plants. The water molecules outside the cells are less concentrated than inside. In this case, water diffuses out of the cell, causing the membranes to shrink away from the cell walls. The protoplasm is crowded into the centers of the plant cells as a result of osmosis. Using another plant, we can demonstrate how osmosis is involved in absorption of water through roots. The plant is being placed into a concentrated salt solution. This will reverse the process of osmosis, removing water from the plant. In time-lapse photography, we see the plant wilting. We can restore the stiffness to the plant by removing it from the salt solution and placing the roots in fresh water. To show that the water diffuses back into the plant, we'll use time-lapse photography once again. Osmotic pressure against the cell walls causes a firmness known as turgor. The maintenance of turgor is an important effect of osmosis. Osmosis, remember, is a special case of diffusion. Diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. The diffusion of water, the diffusion of glucose, the diffusion of gases and other materials helps account for the movement of materials in and out of living cells.
For some reason, I thought that was a little bit longer than it was, but there you go. I'm mixing up some hummus and some hot sauce, just in case you were wondering what I was doing besides watching a film about diffusion and osmosis with proteins. Thank you, Zimmerman, for $16 for NC State getting into the Sweet 16. That's basketball. And, you know, I went to NC State, so I'm happy for them. But, yeah, I'm not really a sports fan. Other people at AV Geeks are sports fans, but not me. All right. This is a great Centron film about bike safety. Enjoy.
There seems to be buried within us a yearning, a wish, to soar, to climb, to glide under our own power, with the wind or in the face of it, at one with the elements. For many, that wish finds a degree of realization astride quiet wheels. Here is a truly personal vehicle, capable of whisking its rider around the block or around the world. Subject, of course, to the energies, skills, or shortcomings of the one person who is in command. That's what this film is about. Being in command during the and safe handling of the responsive but vulnerable vehicle popularly known as the bike. The reasons for the growing popularity of the bicycle are as varied as the people who ride one. Since it is a personal vehicle, it serves many different uses. Some ride a bike for the exercise, as a healthful, pleasant way to burn energy. Others take to two wheels, people-powered, as a means to conserve energy. For them and others, the bicycle is the one form of transportation that is free from pollution. Some see the bicycle as an economy measure, a low-cost way of getting from here to there, on campus or off. While for others, economy is no object. They prize hand craftsmanship, precision engineering, and the fractions of ounces weight reductions which contribute to the price of luxury bicycles. Some are attracted to cycling as an acceptable means to give vent to highly competitive, even aggressive personality traits. And others seek the bicycle as a weekend unwinder, a means to get away from the competitiveness of an urban world. Many choose bicycling because it is a sport everyone in the family can share. They're in no hurry, they can wait for the little ones, and while they're taking it easy, they can see, really see, the area they are passing through.
It's built up on a mixed frame.
Anyone who wants to take part in this satisfying activity is faced with the immediate need for acquiring the vehicle that makes it possible.
Most of the men won't ride it.
First, you must get a bicycle.
It's built up on touring designs.
The number of choices makes the selection of a pair of wheels a bewildering experience for novice or experienced cyclist alike. The options extend all the way from the single-speed models for the youthful beginner through the three-speed types, which offer greater flexibility, allowing the rider to negotiate most moderate grades with relative ease, as well as traveling where it's flat, and extending into the 10 speeds, some of which are regarded as being more or less in the basic transportation category. Others of which have features making them especially attractive to extended tour fanciers, while others are frankly geared and outfitted for the racing enthusiast. Since a bike is such a personal machine, you have to get personal with yourself in selecting one. Analyze your own reasons for wanting one before you head for a retailer's. Know what you want to do with the bike, what you have to spend, and what you may have to spend, whether you want to race or tour or simply get around town. Know whether you're interested in making most repairs and adjustments yourself, or whether you're likely to hire someone to do them for you. Then, put yourself into the hands of a reputable retailer and let him help you fit your bicycle to your prescription. No reputable retailer will allow you to choose a bike that can't be adjusted to your size. Since there is room for adjustment, the rider who is still growing needs the largest bike that can be fitted to her now, so that later size adjustments can keep pace with her growth. But it is a hazardous mistake to buy a completely oversized model to grow into.
You know, the important thing with a frame is that you be able to put your heels down as you can there, and to be able to raise up the front wheel about 2 inches, ideally. How far can you raise it up? That's pretty much right, about 1.5 inches. That's pretty close. That's well within the limits of where it should be.
In any case, the seat post and the handlebar stem should extend at least 2.5 inches down into the frame after adjustment. If they do not, choose a larger bicycle. The size adjustments to be made for both comfort and safety are individual fittings on the distance between saddle and pedal, and between saddle and handlebars. The correctly fitted bicycle will have the seat adjusted up or down so that the knee is only slightly bent on the down position of the pedal. To determine this, place the heel on the pedal. If the leg is perfectly straight, it will then have the proper bend when the ball of the foot is positioned on the pedal, as it should be when you ride. Upright handlebars are repositioned if necessary to permit the body to lean slightly forward in a comfortable riding position. With drop handlebars, place the elbow on the front of the saddle and reach forward. Fingertips should just touch the handlebars, with the handlebar stem slightly lower than the top of the saddle. Other things you can do, which fall more into the area of maintenance than of fitting the bicycle for size, are equally important to your pleasure and your safety. At least twice a month, you should go over your bike to tighten up nuts, particularly those that keep the saddle and handlebars in place.
How do you adjust this?
When gears on multi-speed bikes need adjustment because the cables have stretched or parts have worn, consult your bike's serviceman. He can show you how to make minor adjustments and supply you with the special tools needed.
That's called the high gear adjustment. Now, if your chain is going too far over this way and it's coming off the sprocket, then you have what's called a low gear adjustment, which is this screw here, and you screw that in to keep the chain from going off.
After your bike man has checked you out, you'll probably feel confident to handle minor gear adjustments on your own. Pry out any embedded metal, glass, or cinders from the tire treads. And keep the tires inflated to the pressure recommended by the manufacturer. Inspect the tire valves for leaks. Keep an eye open for worn parts requiring replacement. Pedal treads, handle grips, or damaged reflectors. Night bicycle riding can be extremely dangerous. If you must ride at night, help make yourself and your bicycle as visible as possible to motorists. This rider has used retroflective material and extra lighting to call attention to himself, while the other rider is using only a single reflector on his rear fender. Extra lighting and reflective material provide a margin of safety. If you have to ride at night, make the safety margin as wide as possible. The front light must be visible for 500 feet. You have a choice between battery-powered lights, which provide a steady source of illumination, or generator models, which may be brighter, but fade when the bike isn't rolling. This item of equipment makes your bike safe from those two-legged predators, provided you take time to thread the chain or cable through both wheels and the frame. The basic rule for safe operation of a bicycle is to remember that your vehicle is a vehicle, subject to all vehicular laws. Keep to the right and ride single file, observing all traffic regulations, including those set forth in signs or in traffic signals. Where there are parked cars, keep in mind that one of three things can happen. That's one. That's two. And the third thing is that you can get safely by if you give yourself sufficient leeway to avoid items 1 and 2. Take special care at intersections. Look both ways. Keep both hands on handlebars except when making signals. And if you're making a left turn where traffic is heavy, square the corner. Thus, especially if you are inexperienced. During daylight hours and when traffic is light, a left turn from the left turn lane may be safe, but be sure you have signaled your intention to turn, and be sure others on the road have observed your signal. If you want to carry passengers, fine. Just as long as you stay off your bike while you're doing it. In fact, never carry anything that obstructs your vision or interferes with the proper control of your bike. This type of accident can be both painful and expensive. Pedestrians have the right-of-way, so keep alert for them. Above all, keep your bike in perfect operating condition. The cyclist who sets out with tires that may go flat at any moment, brakes that may fail in an emergency, a chain that may separate from the drive mechanism, or any other potential problem, is far from being bike-wise. The accident that shouldn't have happened usually does, because the rider failed to observe the rules of the road, or because he ventured forth on an unsafe bicycle. Better to play up all the positive values to be gained from taking the responsible approach. The cyclist has a good thing going if he puts forth just a little extra effort to keep it that way, seeing to it that he is mounted on a roadworthy vehicle and that he himself is bike-wise, to be sure.
Yeah, it's no One Got Fat, but it's still pretty great as far as bike films go, and gets in a little bit more into the purchasing a bike from a reputable dealer. All right, so behind me, I have a scanner set up, and this is, we'll see. I have not seen this film. It could be great, could be a stinker. It is Job, Enrichment, Myth, or Milestone. Or Milestone or Myth. Enjoy.
Today, in almost every organization, managers are talking about and experimenting with an important concept. It is the concept of job enrichment as a technique for job design. But does job enrichment really work? Is it the long-awaited milestone solution to all managerial problems of designing jobs, or is it a managerial myth? I'm Dr. John Morse, a professor of organizational behavior. My research deals with organizational and management problems. My objective is to help managers manage more effectively. That is, to help managers get the most out of their people and to help people get the most out of their jobs. One of a manager's most important duties is in designing jobs. When a manager designs a job, he defines the nature of the job. He specifies the operations that are required to perform the job, and he specifies the relationships among jobs. The question now is, how does a manager apply the technique of job enrichment to this issue of job design? What can he do? What should he do? And perhaps just as important, what shouldn't he do? Since the best way to evaluate a technique is to observe it in operation, let's analyze a few typical situations with these questions in mind.
Marge, how's it going?
Same old stuff. Count 10, put them in a bundle, count 10.
Yeah, I know. But things are going to be different from now on. The boys upstairs have decided to enrich your job.
What's that?
Well, that means give you different things to do. We realize your job is repetitive and monotonous, and we don't like it any more than you do. After all, Marge, we don't want to lose you. Now, come on. I'll show you what we've worked out. In the future, you'll take the wires and dip them in the soldering pot. Be careful not to put your hand in hot solder. Then you move over to the terminal machines. Attach the wires, being careful, again, not to put your hand in the terminal machine.
Well, Marge, how do you feel now that your job has supposedly been enriched?
Enriched? It's the same old job, only now I'm doing 3 boring things instead of just 1 boring thing. What's more, he expects me to do it in the same amount of time. I'm fed up. I don't think I'll be in tomorrow.
What's happened here? Apparently, management was sensitive to the needs of the worker and had the objective of lowering absenteeism and turnover. But management has committed the common error of confusing job enlargement with job enrichment. They have simply enlarged Marge's job, simply added a few more routine tasks to her original routine task, but they have not enriched it. Therefore, their objectives will probably not be achieved. Let's check out another situation.
Yeah, I'm free for lunch. Where do you want to go? Nah, I'm tired of that place. In fact, I'm tired of all the joints around here. Hey, hold on a sec, will you, Joey? That's, my pal Joe down the hall. I'll be with you in a second. Hey, Joe, what about if we drive out to the Oak Tree Inn? So it's 40 minutes, so what? Who's clocking us? That's it, pal. I tell you what, I'll pick you up around 11:45 at your office, huh? See you then, Joe. See what I mean, Professor? In this outfit, we come in when we want to, we leave when we want to, we take as long as we want for lunch. It's beautiful.
But, Mike, do your supervisors know that you schedule your own hours?
Of course, that's the whole point. You see, about 6 months ago, the executive board decided to enrich our jobs. They figured if they made us more satisfied, you know, like happier, we'd do better work. And they sure accomplished what they set out to do. You're looking at one happy, satisfied guy.
But how about your sales? Have they improved?
Well, I'm a little bit behind my quota, you see, but I'm going to catch up. I am catching up. Hold on, let me grab this. Yeah. Hey, Chucky, baby, how are you?
Mike?
Hey, Chuck. Yeah, I'll see you for a minute. Chuck, I don't know if I can play tennis tomorrow. I got a customer. Well, tell you what, let me do this. Maybe I can kind of, you know, like juggle things around and, oh, he can wait. I'll see you on the courts at 11, huh? Okay, Pally.
In this situation, it looks as if management has committed a different kind of error. It has aimed for job satisfaction from job enrichment. But job satisfaction is merely an indication of how much people like their jobs, how much they like their work settings. It usually bears little or no relationship to how productive or how effective they are in the organization. Management probably had the best of intentions, but job satisfaction does not necessarily mean job motivation. Job motivation is an indication of how much effort, how much energy individuals are willing to expend to achieve the organization's goals. Unlike job satisfaction, it usually does relate very well to how productive and how effective people are in the organization. Managers probably ought to be more concerned with whether or not job enrichment motivates people in the organization, rather than with whether or not job enrichment satisfies people in the organization. Now let's take a look at a few examples of job enrichment and see how it impacts on employee motivation.
Okay. Oh, just sign here and here.
Oh, okay. Just like it's made out here?
Yes, just like that. Okay. Now, these are your temporary checks, and you can start using them right away. In about a week or so, you'll receive your personalized checks in the mail.
Oh, thank you very much. The deposit tickets are back here?
Yes, they are. Oh, incidentally, there are a number of other services that we have here that I'd like to bring to your attention. Savings account, note collections, safety deposit boxes, traveler's checks.
Oh, fine. Can I see you if I decide to do it?
Oh, yes, I'd like that. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Sharon, we understand your job has been enriched. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us how it was done, please?
Well, originally I was just a secretary here. Then management put me through an on-the-job training program, and now I'm equipped to handle at least half a dozen different jobs.
Were you given any degree of independence and autonomy?
Oh, yes. Besides opening new accounts, I can take the initiative in selling various bank services, in promoting public relations, and in solving problems for our customers. There are just so many things that can come up, I never know what's going to happen next.
How do you feel about that, personally?
I love it. In fact, I wish they'd even give me more to do. I really enjoy the sense of being my own boss and making my own decisions. I guess I've always been that way. Another thing, my supervisor says he's really very pleased with my results. It's good to hear, but I'm really not surprised because I know I'm really trying harder now with this increased responsibility.
From the sound of it, Sharon is a highly motivated individual. But wait a minute. She seems to be the kind of individual who is comfortable with and thrives on a good deal of independence and autonomy. How about somebody else? Someone participating in the same job enrichment program who has a different kind of personality. Will he or she be motivated in the same way? Let's see.
Young man, I am really quite upset. I made a deposit on June 5th, a deposit of $250, and when my statement arrived, it did not show.
You're right, Mrs. Harris. It doesn't show. Did you bring your passbook with you? I'm sure the teller made an entry when you deposited the money.
Oh, I didn't have it with me that day.
I see. Do you have a duplicate deposit slip?
Oh, yes, yes. There it is.
No, June the 5th, $250, and it's not on your statement.
That's right.
I'll check it with the computer, Miss.
Please do. I mean, this is the second time in recent months this has happened, and I'm
Will you excuse me
quite
for a minute?
upset. Yes.
Job enrichment. I wish I'd never joined that program.
What's the problem, Ralph?
They keep switching me around from department to department. I was very happy just being a teller. I knew exactly what to do, and I did it well, if I say so myself. Now it's one day customer relations, another day new accounts, another operations. The whole thing just makes me nervous. I'm not comfortable with responsibility and authority. Well, excuse me, I have to get back to work.
Sure. Well, this is quite a different situation. Sharon is growing and developing with the help of a job enrichment program, whereas Ralph feels frustrated and disorganized under the weight of it. The point that managers ought to consider is that any job design technique such as job enrichment only works if it fits the nature of the technology and the personality of the individual working on that technology. Now let's take a minute to review. At the assembly plant, job enrichment really wasn't being used. Remember, we were seeing job enlargement, not job enrichment. As a matter of fact, my research and the research of many others indicates that where the technology for doing the job is highly programmed and highly predictable, as it appears to be in the assembly plant, job enrichment may not be highly applicable, especially where the people are not particularly capable of dealing easily with autonomy and independence. As for Mike, our salesman, He might have been involved in a job enrichment program, but it resulted in satisfaction on his part, not in motivation or high performance. At the bank, management was on the right track in offering a job enrichment program, but in the case of Ralph, it just didn't fit his personality predispositions. Only Sharon is responding positively to job enrichment. In her case, personality predispositions are appropriate, and so is the type of technology for doing the job.
Note collections, safety pods as
It all adds up to this. My research strongly suggests that job enrichment is not always appropriate. Only when job enrichment fits or is contingent on the nature of the technology, that is, technologies where the procedures are precisely defined, and contingent on the nature of the people, that is, their degree of comfort with freedom and autonomy on the job. Only then will job enrichment lead to high organizational performance and to high employee motivation. This is called the contingency approach to job enrichment. Let me try to wrap up this management education module with a few action-oriented do's and don'ts. First, don't be taken in by the notion that any one approach to job design, such as job enrichment, is equally applicable and appropriate in all situations. Two, do analyze your organization's technologies and your people before you take action on job design issues. Three, don't consider your organization's technologies or your people to be constants and unchanging. The effective manager is the manager who continually maps changes in technologies and people. Then he designs jobs. Four, do ask yourself if the application of a job enrichment program will motivate people on the job. And finally, do consider the contingency approach, that approach which suggests that when it comes to thinking about the effectiveness of a job enrichment program, it all depends. It all depends on the technology, and it all depends on the people as to whether or not job enrichment will work. So, job enrichment is probably neither a managerial milestone nor a managerial myth. Rather, it is either appropriate or not to the situation, and its effectiveness depends on how you apply it.
So I was nervous. I was very nervous that what all that film was going to be was that human strip of bacon just pointing at a chart, because I certainly have films like that. And people ask me, like, do you ever get rid of films? And at this point, I don't, unless they're too damaged. But those would be the first ones that would go. Those managerial films where it could have just been a film strip or a slideshow, where they're just pointing and talking. But this one had those vignettes, man. Those vignettes are so great. Anyways, that's why we collect. It's for those vignettes of unhappy, mostly unhappy employees. One employee was happy. She was happy, but the rest of them, not so much. All right, one last film. We'll sneak in Mexican Handcraft and Folk Art. This is the second edition. Enjoy.
Mexico City is the modern capital of a busy nation, a land with a rich mixture of traditions. Hundreds of years before any Europeans settled in the New World, There were advanced civilizations flourishing here in Mexico. But the Spaniards who conquered the Indians in the 16th century brought a new civilization, a new religion, and new styles of art. Today, the Mexican culture is a blend of many elements, including both the Indian and Spanish traditions. Throughout Mexico, this blend can be seen in the wide variety of arts and handcrafts. Handcrafts such as pottery are displayed for sale in every Mexican city. There are painters who work in glaze on tiles. There are sculptors who carve and polish small animals from a soft stone called onyx. There are women making brocades and embroideries. There are children who are helping to turn out many kinds of products, such as this fringe work shawl. There are a tremendous number of craftsmen and artists producing an enormous variety of goods, from toys to housewares, from copies of classic statuary to replicas of ancient Indian pottery. In this city studio, an artist is carving a modern portrait into a wooden panel. But there are also many villages throughout Mexico where artists such as this Indian woman are working in the most ancient techniques and traditions to produce equally fine results. This young potter is making ceramic ware with one of the oldest of all techniques, the coil method. First, he shapes the bottom. Then he makes long rolls, which he will coil onto the foundation. He winds each coil around the pot, and then works the new clay together with the old. A very large vase or bowl can be constructed in this way. When the clay has dried to a leathery hardness, it is given a final smoothing and shaping with this small tool. Then handles are added to complete the design and make the pot easier to use. This is not simply a decorative bowl, but a piece of kitchenware which some housewife will use in preparing her meals. Now the pot is fired to make it hard and waterproof. After it has been fired, it is ready to be taken to market and sold. Here is another village potter preparing her clay by kneading it to make it smooth. From this, she will slowly fashion a pot. First, she shapes the clay, and then pounds it into a hollow cylinder. She begins to thin down the cylinder walls and force them into the shape she wants. With this primitive wheel, she continues to enlarge the cylinder and thin its walls. Now the final form of the pot takes shape as a neck is added. Water is used to make the neck pliable and to smooth the surface. Pots made in this way have been used here in Mexico since prehistoric times. Finally, this one will be glazed and fired. Weaving is another of the traditional household handcrafts which is still carried on in many parts of Mexico. The women of this village are using ancient backstrap looms to produce exquisitely fine fabrics. This art has been passed down from mother to daughter for thousands of years. And weaving is still an important part of the economy of many villages like this one. Even yarn and thread are still made by hand in some Mexican villages. The fibers are carded or straightened. Then they are twisted together to form a single strand of yarn. Spinning is also practiced in this open-air rug factory. After the yarn is spun, it is woven on an upright loom, the kind that was introduced to Mexico by the Spaniards. Many of the finest textiles in Mexico are still turned out on looms like these. These woolen rugs are good examples of the elaborate and colorful designs which are common here. Although Mexico is industrializing rapidly, a large proportion of its manufactured goods still comes out of small workshops. These men are making steel knives. The metal is heated in this crude furnace, while one of the men forces air in with a hand bellows. Then the steel is forged by hand. The steel must be heated and hammered and cooled many times. A great deal of Mexican handcraft is still devoted to producing utilitarian objects such as building materials. This man is making bricks in a mold. After they have been dried in the sun, they will be baked hard in a kiln. Another worker is making roof tiles. He shapes them in a form and then rounds them before setting them out to dry. Tiles and bricks made in this way are standard building materials in many parts of Mexico. But there are also many Mexican craftsmen who produce jewelry and other luxuries. Here, small charms are being stamped out for a necklace or bracelet. This craftsman is forming a sand mold in which he will cast a silver face. The face to be cast was copied from one found in the ruins of an ancient Indian tomb. When the mold is complete, molten silver is poured in. When the silver hardens, it is removed from the mold and cleaned. This face, like most of the other arts and crafts, reflects the rich heritage of Mexico. Throughout the land, these arts and handcrafts are being practiced from the smallest villages to the largest and most cosmopolitan cities. The blend of Spanish and Indian traditions is everywhere. This building at the University of Mexico is decorated with murals in which this blend can be seen in its most sophisticated form. The mixed history of Mexico is alive in the most simple crafts and the most magnificent works of art.
That was sweet. and not so gripey like the last film. Yeah, thanks Cornette for giving us that mellow end to today's show. We'll be back again tomorrow to show you some more films. Tomorrow's Tuesday, right? But thank you for tuning in today. We very much appreciate your eyeballs and your comments. You can hit the thumbs up, the like button. You can subscribe. Those are ways to support us virtually. You can also send us some cash. Zymerman did that. You can do that by going to ko-fi.com/avgeeks and buying us some coffee. Or patreon.com/avgeeks to help us pay for one of the 5 storage units that we have. Technically there's 6 because I got one, but I went to this unit and I found out it's actually 2. So we have 6 storage units. How about that? And yeah, that's rent. And basically what we're doing is we're clearing out the basement and clearing out the back of the archive to do some renovation work, which will be happening over the next several months. And I'll keep you posted on that. But another way to support us is with the super thanks button. But thank you just watching and sharing and telling other people about what we do. Those are other ways that you can support us and help us. But yeah, we will see you tomorrow. Everybody take care. Have a great rest of your Monday. And we will see you soon.